Hello there, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome to our event. My name is Jared. On behalf of the Surface team and Bytes, we're thrilled that you chose to spend about an hour or so with us to learn more about how Surface devices and all of the powerful services that come with being a Bytes customer afford you to streamline the way that your operations work. That is our topic of our session today. There's a lot to get into. We're broadcasting to you live from our studio here in Seattle, Washington, in the United States, hence the accent. And I thrive off of your participation, your questions, and interaction. And here's how you can do that in our session today: the chat. The chat is a powerful thing. I want to see your thoughts, your questions, of course, most importantly, reactions to what we're sharing. So the chat is a great place to do that. And I am curious to get things rolling in the chat. If any of you joining us are currently using or have ever used a Surface before, and if you feel like sharing, which Surface do you use now or did you use before? Go ahead and let me know in the chat. I just want to see how familiar we are and also make sure that you can hear and see me okay. So chat is a good place for that. Also, fit to frame. I want to make sure you can see all of our presentation, all of the hands-on demos with the devices from our multi-camera studio, and all of me. So we would love if you could right-click on me and then select Fit to Frame. That way, Microsoft Teams will give you the full experience throughout our entire session. All right, I see in my monitor here in the studio, I can see your questions and comments as they come in. We got a Surface Pro 8 from David. Tomas has a Pro 9. Darren had a Pro 3, 4, and 7. Thank you for sticking with us through all of those very different devices. All the same name, but all distinct. I see Ian here, Book 2, a studio. I'm assuming you mean our full Surface Studio, the desktop class device, a Hub and a Hub 2S. Well, aren't you fancy over there? And then a Pro 7 some time ago, says Gary, and that's perfectly fine. Today we're talking Pro 9. We have Laptop 5, as well as a full suite of different devices. Our focus today is not only going to be showing you these devices hands-on, but making the case for how this can add even more value to your business. I want to start off our time together talking about the finances of it all. What is the actual value of a Surface device? You may know that a Surface device is premium and sometimes can be more expensive or less expensive depending on which model you choose. I want to justify a lot of that to you with cold, hard data. So we're going to start there. Then I want us to move into security, sustainability, and inclusivity, our core things as a brand, both Microsoft and Surface, and what we're doing in these fronts. I'm going to show you the devices and a little bit of some photos of our engineering lab and some behind the scenes as to how we build these devices. And then I want to walk you through Bytes Managed Workspace and the device as a service offering, which can make that even more attainable for you. So, that said, let's dive in, shall we? The value to a business of Surface. When I say value, there's many ways that people will instinctually just react to that word. Is it the value in productivity, the value in cold hard cash? Is it the value in customer outcomes that you are able to provide even to your customers? Surface, we want to have a wide net and add as much value in all of these areas as a device as we can. And these pillars that you see here, almost like a chessboard, are how exactly we do that. We want to make it easier for IT to manage these devices, even compared to other Windows devices. We'll talk about that today. Surface is and must be the best expression of Microsoft. From Microsoft 365 and powerful AI tools like Copilot coming soon, to all of the hardware compatibility, capability, and testing, it should be the best expression of what we do because it is the first computer ever made by Microsoft directly. Safety and security, I think that goes without saying. It is incredibly important to us, and I have some interesting statistics on that as it relates to Surface compared to even other Windows devices from a organizational security standpoint. I know that we have some of you on the line today who are in the public sector. That is very important there, as it is in any business, so we'll cover that a bit. And then, yeah, the devices have to be powerful and unique, versatile in the way in which we use them, hold them, love them, and interact with them. Love them may be a bit of a stretch, but hey, I love my Surface Laptop Studio, so there you go. These are some of the core pillars that we have at Surface to bring you the most powerful, impactful devices we can. But let's translate that into the financial aspects. We had a research conducted by IDC. They had gone through an entire white paper on the value of Surface to a business, interviewing a whole array of different organizations, large and small, not only Surface organizations that don't use Surface explicitly, ones that use Windows and non-Windows and beyond, in order to get a rich data set that they then analyzed to find that these are the core places where businesses are either saving money or, in effect, getting a return on their Surface investment. And so this slide doesn't have a lot of numbers. I'm going to talk kind of in the abstract. The next slide I'm going to show you has all the numbers. So starting here first, employee experience. This one is rather interesting because it's not as tangible. Yes, if they are more productive, they're saving hours of the day, but there are some things like enhanced creativity that, I mean, how do you measure that? You measure it by asking people what they think about it. And the studies that we've had over the years of Surface have shown that people do feel that when they are issued a Surface device by their employer, they have a greater sense that their employer is investing in them, and they shared that they have a greater sense of pride in the place in which they work. Now, that might not have a dollar or pound for pound comparison, right, as it comes to a grid chart like this, but it does matter. The employee experience and being able to be collaborative is also quite key. When we talk about device savings, we have noticed in this study reduced need for third-party applications and platforms, a higher residual value at the end of the device's life. We often don't think about that, but when you go to sell it later for value recovery, Surface devices are even more of that higher residual value. And because Surface is just better at some things, like microphones, cameras, there is some savings there in reduced accessories. IT simplicity is a huge one that drives our research. Easy management of the devices, reduction in help desk tickets submitted to your IT teams, lower security costs, fewer help desk calls. And I know, this seems like a really tall order and a lot of promises. I want to show you some of the data that was collected by IDC and how that has translated into some results for us. I'll show you this slide nice and full. You don't need to see me for this. There's kind of a lot here. I'm not going to go over every single stat on here. A lot of them kind of speak for themselves, but I want to talk about this column that we see here on the side, the total benefits per device. And this number down here, 9,036 United States dollars, which is what the calculations that you see here are done in, my apologies. But that number for a per device count seems a bit outlandish. There's a lot of ways that we get to this from a data-backed standpoint. I will start here with the hard cost savings. We had found that per device, all of these numbers per device, there was a reduction in the need of accessories. Not an insignificant, but also not a large amount, 120 per device. That is a 26% reduction. This one is the largest stat on here, and it is absolutely valid. 41%. This is 3,756 saved due to device consolidation. When you have a device like a Surface Pro 9, which I will show you here in a moment, that device is so versatile that we are seeing in a lot of organizations where they would issue a laptop and a tablet, or a desktop and a laptop, or this device and something portable to go on the road. If we can do that in the same device that is LTE and 5G equipped and ready to be connected wherever they are, and it's the one thing that we issue them, there can be some great consolidation savings. So yes, this number would apply to organizations where employees are issued more than one device. Then, a reduction in the need for third-party support because we build that device. We at Microsoft, we also service the warranty and everything else involved. So there is some great consolidation there and not having to go out to different places. Not everything in this report was positive and in Surface's favor. We did see that there is an increase of 6% needed for training IT staff. And that is because Surface is managed a little bit differently than some of the other Windows devices, while at the same time managed exactly the same. And I know that's quite confusing. We use the same tools and technology, but Surface gets its updates from Windows Update. It is ready to be connected to the cloud, but it's also ready to be imaged and put into a local domain. It's versatile, but it is a little different and unique. Some IT training increase in costs. We did notice this as well. The higher residual value. These devices, compared to other Windows devices, are 31% more valuable at the end of their life when they're sold for value recovery or written off or donated. That is meaningful because Surface devices have that premium quality and hold their value. Okay. Next one is these soft cost savings, making deployment easier. And in our session today, I want to show you Windows Autopilot and some of the more modern deployment methods that led to this number being included. We did see, and this one for me is real key, higher employee retention. And, I'm not saying that simply by having a Surface, everyone's going to want to stay at your organization forever, of course. But what we have found is that Surface did result in a 4% improvement in employee retention on average among the different customers that were surveyed for this data. Because I know that if I was no longer in the position that I am in, my next employer, I would really want them to have a modern device. I refuse to go back to this big, bulky plastic laptop with the one spot in the fan that burns me. I want something that, is a reflection of the modern age we live in. I would argue Surface is that. And that has translatable effects to how the employees view it and how they view their portal to your workplace. Moving on. We did see a dramatic drop in help desk calls, 49% fewer, because the device is easy to use and the ability to manage a lot of its hardware components entirely remotely in the cloud. And because of its greater security stance, we saw a 34% reduction in security incidents. Productivity gains inputs a lot of hours of time saved in order to base its calculations. And so I won't go into too many of these. I'll just kind of give you a quick highlight. Time waiting for deployment is down because Surface devices come with the Office installation files preloaded. I'll get into that a bit more later. We saw productivity improvements, fewer reboots, security incident resolution was quicker, less staff time for that ongoing security. And then we add it all up here at the bottom. You can see the grid kind of across the board. Focusing on these rows, the hard cost savings of $4,047 is largely reliant upon that device consolidation. We then have about almost $2,000 in soft cost savings, and then in these productivity gains, another $3,000 per device. A lot of these numbers do rely on you shifting not just buying a Surface device from Bytes, but also shifting the way in which your IT operates, devices are deployed, to be something a bit more modern. So, with that said, let's press onward. I'm going to skip this one because I want to tell you about an actual customer of ours who has agreed to a case study, the Manchester Airports Group in the United Kingdom. In terms of which devices did Manchester Airports Group select, well, here's the list, and it is quite robust. They essentially went all in on Surface as a solution for their day-to-day operations. The head of their technology group said, quote, "We take our Microsoft Surface devices wherever we go, so we are truly mobile with one primary device. It makes the whole user experience incredibly streamlined." I will say I had a very strong urge to read that with a British accent, but I have a strong feeling that it might not have gone over well. Anyway, looking here, they went this option because they had lots of people who are roaming about the different airports, making sure that things are taken care of and operations run efficiently. Surface was a device that allowed them to do it. All of the data I've shown you is averaged, right, for a typical organization conducted in a scientific fashion. But if you want to plug in your own data and manipulate the numbers I just showed you to reflect your own organization, we have a calculator for this. That's really powerful. We've been working on it for a while and something we're quite proud of. The link is tco.exploresurface.com. Bytes.com. That link was just put there into the chat by my producer. Thank you for that. So that is a great place where you can go in, type in the numbers, and see how this affects your organization. If you're choosing to open that now, go right ahead, but don't start filling in numbers. I'm far more interesting, I promise, because now we're going to talk about modern management and security of the devices. One of the key areas that Surface in that study really stood out, even compared to other Windows devices. The first things first, when I say security, one of the first things that pops into people's head is viruses. We've had them for a while. Around Windows 8, we decided that we were done with that and created and free, included in the operating system, antivirus in the form now of Microsoft Defender. That is just a part of what we do, providing antivirus, anti-malware, that sort of thing. And a lot of organizations have some solution that solves for viruses and malware. But there's a new vector of attack being used by malicious actors to compromise data, and that is at the firmware level, the actual physical hardware of the device. Because if the operating system is protected, well, let's just go around the operating system. Let's get into the firmware. Let's get into the UEFI, which is the area that exists before Windows boots, and attack that. And that is exactly what these malicious actors did. Starting back in 2018, there was the very big Spectre and Meltdown vulnerability that affected, oh my goodness, all x86 PowerPC and select ARM devices. It was quite broad and robust, affecting a lot of users. In 2019, another one, Shadowhammer, that infected Asus firmware, over 1 million devices in that one. In 2020, Mosaic Regressor, we get these fancy names, this completely overrode the UEFI of the device and was explicitly used for espionage. Quite insidious. It got so bad that that same month, here in the United States, our National Security Agency issued a technical report saying, hey y'all, let's update the UEFI and firmware, shall we? It didn't help because the pattern continues. In February 2022, 16 different models of HP's enterprise devices were exposed to UEFI vulnerabilities. So if you're thinking, oh gosh, Jared, this is insane, get rid of this firmware and UEFI. Well, that's a part of the device, but we can secure it and we can do things differently. Most other Windows devices use the same manufacturer of the UEFI and firmware software, a company called American Megatrends. Even us at Surface, we used that before Surface Pro 5. But around Surface Pro 5, our engineers made a decision to do something a bit different, and we created our own Microsoft-built and manufactured UEFI and firmware and applied that to every device going forward. That has helped insulate us from all of these different types of attacks because our firmware is not the same as everyone else's, is different, and is, frankly, more secure. We are not harboring this for ourselves, and in fact, the Microsoft UEFI has been made available open source for all other Windows OEMs to adopt and incorporate into their devices, and some of them have. Only 2 other manufacturers, none of the major names that you might see, but we're starting to see some traction in adopting that, and that's really key because it's part of our multi-tiered approach to security at Surface. You can imagine these arrows as incoming attacks, and here are your different layers that are protecting your data, your organization from the attacks. Of course, in the cloud, we need to make sure that that is very, very up to date and secure. So Windows Update for Business, conditional access. There is a feature, and I'm gonna put a box over the couple of places where this is identified. I mentioned that Microsoft UEFI moments ago. Because we build our own UEFI, it actually allows us to do something that typically was never possible from a security standpoint on Windows devices. We can remotely and in the cloud, with zero touch of the device, lock down and secure the UEFI and firmware. Now, oh wow, you can remotely secure something. Doesn't sound that impressive, but when you consider that that is an environment that exists before Windows even turns on, the operating system isn't even booted. We created a secure connection between the operating system and Windows Update and the firmware and UEFI. So if you are aware of a threat, within a moment's notice, there's some time for propagation, but you can change the policy in the cloud, and then every device in your organization can no longer use USB ports for the time being. Or we've disabled cameras for some reason. Or we've employed just security that prevents people from reinstalling Windows on the device and using the device that they stole from one of your employees. We can do that remotely. Before, that was not possible. The only way to do that was when you have physical access to the device and manually inputting a password that can never be changed or reset. Now it's more modern, it's smart, and only Surface and 2 other OEMs are currently supporting that feature. And then, of course, we do have the things from a security standpoint you'd expect, our most secure version of Windows ever, a firmware stack that is quite robust. If you're not yet using the cloud, we do have Surface Enterprise Management Mode, which is done through USB, but can still put a company-controlled certificate instead of that irrevocable password I mentioned. And then, of course, on the hardware front, Surface is going to have you covered. I mean, we have your TPM chips, BitLocker, Windows Hello for biometric authentication. The hard drives on most of our devices now can be completely removed, and we are incorporating our Microsoft Pluton processor for even more security. This is how we get to the statistic you saw in that study of a 34% reduction in security incidents when people are using Surface. We're proud of this, as you can tell. I'll move on from security now. And I'll remind you that any questions that you have or even thoughts, please go ahead and do put them in the chat. I'll be able to see them as they roll in. Okay, let's talk about how we manage our devices. We have a term, Microsoft Intune. You probably heard of it. When you think Intune, you might immediately think cloud-based management, because for so long, that was explicitly cloud when you say Intune. And then you had solutions like Microsoft Configuration Manager, formerly called SCCM, to manage devices in a more local domain-based way. And so what we've done is we've taken the cloud-based intelligence of Intune, the legacy requirements that many of our customers use in Configuration Manager and a suite of other management tools. They are all now a part of what we are calling the Microsoft Intune product family. We're doing this for a terminology change. Intune means device management, period. This used to be called Microsoft Endpoint Manager. Now we're just going to say Intune for everything, but that still includes Config Manager, and Config Manager is still routinely being updated and is fully compatible with all of our latest Surface devices that I'm mentioning. So if you're not quite there, or you're in the public sector and making changes is like steering a cruise ship, right? We hear you. Our devices will still work with your environment. When we're using Intune, though, we created something that is distinctly Surface. No other device is going to have this. As a part of Intune, and this is no cost, it's just included, is the Surface Management Portal. When you open up this area of Intune, we've created a single pane of glass where you can view all of the data about your different Surface devices, what models that we have in the organization and how many of them. Insights into those devices, how many are compliant, what about the warranty? Which warranties have expired? Which ones are expiring soon? So get that claim in now. How many are fully covered? How many did you buy recently from Bytes? And Bytes can still add that additional coverage if you'd like. We'll even give you that data. And then if you ever submitted a support ticket, we'll show you every single support ticket your organization has open with us and its current status, and a quick link to click on it and get even more robust information and detail, as well as a curated list of news specifically for IT professionals as it relates to best managing Surface devices. We want to have one consolidated area where you can just see these devices, you can look them up by serial, you can even see how much hard drive space is left on the machine, and much, much more. It helps everything to be just a bit more efficient because we build Intune and we build Surface and we service the warranty and we provide support for Microsoft 365. We are uniquely positioned to create this, and I think it's one of those fabulous facets of Surface. Once we are using a cloud-based deployment method or a hybrid deployment method, we have the benefit of something called Windows Autopilot. You have likely heard of Windows Autopilot. We at Microsoft view it the future of deployment. And so as we look at this kind of a journey, this is the life cycle of a device with Autopilot. I have a different version of this slide a little bit later in our presentation so I can tell you a bit about how Bytes comes into play. But let's say that following this call, you say, you know what, Jared, we love that. We're going to order these Surface devices. Bytes will be there to help you customize and build that entire solution, deploy them, assign them to the right users. Importantly, we create a series of deployment profiles instead of system images, and these are unique to each role within your organization. So there can be a different profile set for the administrators versus salespeople versus IT, which needs to have a much more grand amount of access. They're personal. And how that device sets itself up is determined based on who is holding it. If I sign in with my credentials and I'm a member of the IT team, I might be an administrator with a lot more access privileges. Or if I sign into that device as a member of HR, I have a lot of restrictions in place and I have that special software back from 2007 that I just kind of have to use. Well, that's already installed for me because Windows Autopilot can support it. Then, the device can ship directly from Bytes to the users that need them, fresh in its box, if you'd like. And then the user opens it up and they go through the out-of-box experience. They must connect to the internet. And the moment that that device gets a sip of internet, it realizes, oh, I belong to Contoso Corporation. I need to set myself up for that. And then it will ask the user to securely authenticate, even with multi-factor authentication at that point. Once they do, the device keeps them informed every step of the way, and they get to see their device literally set itself up before their eyes. That unique profile to the user is pushed down to the device, and then when that user is no longer using it, it can be reset with a feature called Autopilot Reset, where yes, it will erase everything the previous user did, and then it will pre-provision the next user. Bytes can help you do this. They'll change the assignment. So if it's going from Anna to Raul, when Anna's done with the device knows that its next user will be Raul. You perform the autopilot reset, it erases everything of Anna's, and then it will pre-provision all of Raul's things so that he doesn't have to wait for 45 minutes to an hour for that autopilot process to complete. He's ready in minutes because all that work has been done by IT and by Bytes in advance of the user receiving it. Really powerful. And that can also happen at the very first time that we use it. More on that a bit later. And then at the very end, that device can be deprovisioned from the organization, which means, let's say that you donated it to a school, right? You don't want every time that device turns on and connects to the internet to say, hey, Contoso Corporation, sign in. Bytes can help you deprovision that. You could also do so in Intune. Surface isn't the only device that supports Windows Autopilot. All Windows devices that meet the criteria can support Windows Autopilot. But there are some distinct advantages to using Surface specifically compared to other Windows devices with Autopilot. The video you see here is the out-of-box experience of someone setting up a device with Autopilot. I'll let that play as I tell you some of these things. One of the first main differences is that we ship with what we call the signature image. Yes, this is free from that pre-installed software that you may not intend to keep, if you know what I mean. It's a clean version of Windows. And in there, what we do include is all of the Office installation files. They're there, ready to be signed in and activated. And once they do, you have Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, Teams. All of that is just there and ready. So it doesn't have to go download all of those applications from the cloud. This is unique to Surface. The firmware can be managed in the cloud, as I mentioned earlier. And if a device is ever returned to us, either through warranty or for any other reason, we'll automatically disassociate the old device and then reassociate the replacement device for you and for Bytes, frankly, because they could also handle this entire process for you. If you'd like to learn more about Autopilot, aka.ms/Windows Autopilot. Okay. That's the deployment, but let's get into the devices and our commitment to building sustainable, inclusive devices. Making sure that the things that we do, whether it's creating a Surface or building new capabilities in the cloud or rolling out a new data center, it has to be done in a sustainable way that is healthy for our planet, in line with our goals as an organization at Microsoft, and also in line with yours. When you're procuring a device, you also have goals as to how sustainable your organization is going to be as a participant here on planet Earth. So I want to share with you a little bit about our goals, what our goals are, and what we've accomplished. Going back to 2009, we set our first carbon emission reduction goal. We have been carbon neutral as a worldwide organization since 2012. We are LEED Gold certified for all of our new data centers, and our campus is zero waste as of 2016, 2017. We have done a lot, but our goals are really quite bold. In just a few short years, our plan is to operate with 100% renewable energy. That's not us purchasing offsets. That's actually shifting the way our buildings and operations are powered to be running off of renewable energy. We also have a bold goal to not just be carbon neutral, we already did that, but to be carbon negative by the year 2030, to become zero waste beyond our campus in 2030, become water positive in 2030, and then by 2050, it's going to take us some time, but we actually wish to remove all of our historic carbon emissions from electricity dating back to the original founding of Microsoft Corporation in the 70s. We care about this a lot, and I don't have to wait until 2050 to realize some of these benefits. Our Surface devices, as we stand today, we have a goal that by 2030, all of our devices and their packaging will be 100% recyclable. Today, though, we are Energy Star certified and EPEAT Gold certified, which is this organization's highest possible rating for a device's sustainability. We have a calculator for this too. And so if this is something that you want to dive deeper in and learn more about how Surface can impact, presenting.live/Surface Sustainability Calculator. It's rather long, but that is the link that will take you directly to our sustainability calculator so that you can interact with it yourself and type in some numbers. Okay. All of this said, let's talk about the devices themselves. We have a portfolio, a family of devices that I am thrilled to introduce you to. Here they are. All of them. A good number of them. And our portfolio has continued to evolve over time. Today, I'm going to be showing you hands-on Surface Pro 9 as well as Surface Laptop 5. So separate from these ones, though, there is a different device to meet an array of different users' goals. And I'm going to dive into these in a bit more detail, but just to highlight, we do have a mobile device with Surface Duo 2 that does actually run Android, but a modified version, so it incorporates beautifully with Microsoft 365, and it has 2 screens for that maximum productivity. A portable device with Surface Go 3 that can still maintain a connection to that LTE network for consistent connectivity as people roam. We have a Pro 7 Plus if we need legacy compatibility with our previous accessories. This is a device specific for education and specific to students, Laptop SE. It's a very low-cost device so that schools of all budget sizes are able to roll out premium devices to all of their different students. I noticed someone earlier has a Surface Studio, and I appreciate that. That's our desktop class display there. Our flagship currently is the Surface Laptop Studio, the most powerful device that we build. And extremely versatile, can behave like a laptop. You can pull the screen towards you and recline it all the way down. I'm in love with this device. If you're curious, a geek like me, that is my device, the Laptop Studio. I've been sharing the screen with Surface Hub this entire time and using it to ink on my slides. That's our collaboration device. It has Teams built into its DNA. Laptop Go 2 represents an even more cost-effective version of our Surface laptop that still has something quite powerful, a little bit smaller size on that device. That's our family. There are some things that most of these have in common. We want to build devices that do things differently, that are well-built, quality, the best expression of Microsoft, and here's some of the ways that that happens. 1, the build quality itself. 2, the interaction with other people, being seen and heard clearly. Our speakers certified Dolby Atmos. We have voice clarity features for even more enhanced background and noise reduction. Auto leveling microphones so that we don't have that peaking type of experience. Far field microphones so you don't have to sit right in front of the device. You can roam around your room and it will maintain the audio quality and resonance of your sound. The design of these being incredibly researched. I have the next slide talks about that. And then a beautiful keyboard as well. Here's some behind-the-scenes shots. This is our Surface Engineering Lab at Building 88, just across the lake here in Redmond, Washington. We have a group of skilled scientists in our human factors lab that make sure that the things that we build is safe and easy for people to use. They test things like how comfortable is the typing experience. If we build a smaller keyboard, how long will it take someone to adjust to their full typing speed? We had to do that with Surface Go, and it involved injecting people's knuckles and hands with sensors and probes. It was a thing. But we were able to learn and build the best keyboard possible. If you're ever looking for a bit of rest and relaxation, we have the quietest location on planet Earth, according to the Guinness Book of World Records. Our anechoic chamber at the Surface Engineering Lab is so quiet we can't let people stay in there for longer than an hour because they lose their equilibrium and fall over. This isn't just a fun project. We use this to test the accuracy of our microphones, background noise reduction, and also the volume levels of things like the fan of the device, and much more. Our Applied Sciences Lab is a part of that, where we can prototype different devices and changes live here as the engineers can interact and work with them. So there is a lot of design and skill that goes into crafting each of these devices here at our lab. And a part of that crafting process is making sure that the devices are a fit for the widest array of human beings possible. And not all human beings have the same ability levels. Making sure that our devices are inclusively and accessibly designed has been a core part of Surface since the beginning and is something that we continue to improve on with our new versions of Surface and the accessories that we launch to drive that forward. We have a suite of different things. One of them we call the Surface Adaptive Kit. I'm a big fan of this. It's a series of 3D keycap labels, pulls, and tethers that makes using the device, opening the kickstand, raising a lid, a lot more simple for people who need that type of assistance. These here are designed to complement the style of Surface and not look like a bulky add-on, something that has some dignity to its purpose, and I love that about our adaptive kit, our Microsoft Adaptive Accessories, and 3D printed grips for our pens so that an even wider array of people can use and interact with them. I want to shift gears a little bit to a little bit of a distinction in how these devices are purchased. If you were to go on to a retail store this afternoon and go buy a Surface device off of the shelf, it would not be the same device that you would purchase through Bytes. When you buy a device through Bytes, it is what we call a Surface for Business device. And that has meaning other than just the term for business. There's a couple of differences. The first is that only Surface for Business devices come with the Pro version of Windows 10 or 11. That allows you to add it to your organization, join it to your domain, and actually use it for work. If you don't have Pro, you'll need to up-level the device to Pro before it can be used for that purpose, a timely thing to do. If something goes wrong with that device, we'll send the replacement device first before receiving the defective device back, a process called advanced exchange. Some of our for business devices are more powerful processors and some unique configurations for our business customers, and some are reserved exclusively in that Surface for Business line, so you'll have that best expression of our portfolio. And then our packaging is much more environmentally friendly and compostable and recyclable in how we ship these, because we realize that sending your IT team a very beautiful box that they promptly throw in the bin is not going to be helpful. That is across the board when you purchase our Surface for Business devices. I want to actually show you them, and I want to start with the Surface Pro 9. Surface Pro 9 is the most versatile device in our family, and it is quite powerful. There are two distinct versions of Surface Pro 9, one that has an Intel processor option, and one that has powerful 5G connectivity with a custom-designed processor called the Microsoft SQ3. I know I'm getting technical. If you're not very technical, just try to roll with me here. Your Intel processor has that very powerful performance, up to a Core i7 for running some robust applications, including even the Adobe Creative Suite, directly on a very portable tablet-sized device. That's powerful. So is our SQ3 processor, not as powerful as the Intel one, but incredibly battery efficient. We partnered with Qualcomm to build that device, and that device has 5G connectivity. And that 5G connectivity is really quite key. The rest of the information on this slide, I'm actually going to show you here in the studio. So let's take a look at it. Okay, I have the Surface Pro 9 right here on my desk. Looking at it up close, first things first, I have this kickstand here. I can open it with this, just like that. The kickstand will hold itself in whatever position is most comfortable. So as I pull this open and recline it down, I don't have to worry about the screen sliding and not holding its place as I tap and interact. This is laptop mode, and so you can see I have the slightly elevated keys here. That is because there's a magnetic strip that is here across the top of that. In hiding in this magnetic strip, let me show you overhead, there is the Surface Slim Pen 2. So the pen is not magnetically attached to the side as in previous Surface devices, and instead now this is neatly stored right here. I can remove it, pull it out, interact on screen. You can put it back, and you can't put it back wrong. If you try to put it in upside down, it does a little somersault real quick and then puts itself in place and then charges itself. And then this can be reattached to the screen. It does not block the screen, which is really nice. So as I'm interacting with it, you can see I can see my full Windows taskbar there across the bottom. The keys themselves are backlit if you're in a low light environment, and I have multi-touch gestures here on this glass composite trackpad. Looking at the side of the device, I have a couple of different key ports, 2 USB-C ports here. On the Intel version of this device, those are Thunderbolt 4 enabled, and if that doesn't mean much to you, just know they're incredibly powerful and can run even things like external graphics cards if the role calls for it. On the other side of the device is a Surface Connect port. That's our own proprietary port, which is used to connect to Surface dock, as well as the included charger. An important thing I wanted to share, though, is that you don't need to use our charger. As long as you have a USB-C charger that is 65 watts or greater, or a USB-C docking station, that will charge this device at the exact same speed as our included Surface charger. And it's quite a fast speed. You can go from 0% to 80% battery in about an hour with our fast charging capability on the devices. So really incredible stuff. The Surface itself, when I don't want to use it like a laptop, well, I can simply disconnect the signature keyboard. I can recline this all the way down to 165 degrees, similar to an architect's drafting desk. I noticed that when people go to write on a screen for the first time, they write like this. This is not how we write. This is how we write. And people are nervous to A, touch the screen, and B, to rest weight on the screen. Let me dissolve you of those concerns. Oh yes, it is a very secure, well-built machine. This device in particular gets quite a beating because I do that in almost every one of these, and it performs beautifully. So Surface Pro 9, whether you have the 5G version or this one, you're going to have a really incredibly versatile device that's there to both be a laptop and a tablet and everything in between. You plug it into a dock, it'll power your 2 4K monitors just fine. So that is Surface Pro 9. The next device. Well, I told you about 5G already, so I won't delve too much into it, but I do want to call in two additional things I didn't mention. One, the processor, the SQ3 processor on the Pro 9 with 5G has what's called a neural processing unit. It uses the power of AI to have some really incredible effects. We call the bundle of effects Windows Studio Effects. These are things like automatic framing of the camera as you move around so that it can follow you and see you. Some of the best background blur technology. I have curly hair, and being able to crop that out without chopping off half of my head is one of the things I really appreciate about that neural processing unit, as well as some incredible voice clarity. I have seen it with my own eyes, someone sitting here on a Teams call talking to them while holding a running hairdryer, and I'm able to hear every word they say clearly. It is really quite remarkable. That is only a feature of the 5G version of our Surface Pro 9. And another thing that's distinct, the longest battery life we have ever put into a Surface Pro, up to 19 hours. That Qualcomm battery just sips, or Qualcomm processor just sips the battery life. So we're really proud of those features there of that Pro 9 with 5G. And we still, of course, have the Intel version should you need that extra power and performance. That is also available. Now I'll tell you a bit more about our Surface Laptop 5. Now there are different Surface laptops. You saw Laptop Go, Laptop Studio. Laptop 5, though, is serving kind of a distinct need. We had Pro originally, and we had Book. I saw one of you here in the audience had a Surface Book. But we got requests from customers saying we love Surface, we love the brand, we like the quality, but we just want a traditional laptop form factor. We just need a laptop. And so we built this. But at Surface, we don't like anything overly traditional. We wanted to do something distinct and build just a beautifully crafted machine. So the premium nature of this is where it really shines. A lot of these capabilities that you've seen before, those Thunderbolt 4 ports, are secured core PCs, which Surface Pro 9 is as well. You have two different screen options, 13.5 or a 15-inch display, the largest mobile device display in our family. And still a 17-hour battery life, which is really quite impressive. So let me show this to you in a bit more detail. I'll excuse my Pro 9 for the moment and pull up my matte black Surface Laptop 5. Let's take a look at this one up close. And there's one thing that I love here about this. The true hallmark of a premium device. Can you open the lid with one finger? On this device, I can. And note, the keyboard does not come with me. I know it's a minor thing, but it drives me nuts when I have a device and I go to open the lid and I have to brace it as I open it. You don't have to do that with Surface devices. And here, this is the 15-inch version of this display. Right now, it's a little bit of a dim display. Let me see if I can brighten that up for us. There we go. Have a beautiful view. This has the largest trackpad. It's bright. Let me move that. This has the largest trackpad of any of our devices, as well as the same key size and spacing as our Surface Pro 9, which has the same key size and spacing as our desktop class keyboards. So there should be little to no adjustment period when you're moving to a Surface. I can show you a bit overhead for a more closer view of that keyboard. You can see here how that is just very nicely crafted. On the side of the device, port-wise, on this side we do have, and I know it's a little hard to see in this matte black color, a full-size USB port and a USB-C port here that is Thunderbolt capable. On the other side, you have your Surface Connect port here to charge it. Same charging rules apply. Your USB-C port on this side can also be used to charge. Laptop also has a headphone jack option here on the back. It cools itself, and it's kind of hard to see with the lighting, forgive me. There, you can kind of see it, with this vent that runs across the entire back of the device, so heat just escapes out this exit here. On our Surface Pro devices, heat is dissipated through what we call the perimeter vent, and we've had this since Surface Pro 1, and have continued to iterate on it. It's this little groove that you see here that runs along the entire top perimeter, and that is where the heat just escapes out the nearest exit. So that is a little bit of our Surface devices hands-on. We have a bit more to cover, and I want to remind you now as I go into our last section of our content here that I want to answer your questions. If you have any questions about what I've shared so far, go ahead and start writing them in the chat now, as soon it will be your final opportunity to do so. So if you've had a question in your head, write it in there. Would love to answer something at the end of our session. So disclaimer over, let's get back to the material. There is a different Surface device for the different unique roles within your organization, whether you're a commercial business or a public sector customer or in education, which is a part of public sector, but you get the idea. I'll show this to you nice and large. Here is all of our different devices. Surface Go 3 is a good fit when we look at people who are in the field, mobile. Surface Laptop Go 2 as well. Customer relationship managers get that benefit of either a laptop or a Laptop Go 2 there to be a bit more portable. And when we move toward information workers, people traditionally at a desk, our executives, our engineers and researchers, Laptop Studio is a great fit for them. Studio 2 Plus could also be a good fit depending on the role. And then there are a few devices that really just span the spectrum. Look at this. Surface Pro 9, we confidently feel, is a great fit for anyone in an organization because it truly is that versatile. Similarly, Surface Duo and Surface Hub are there for the benefit of a wide array of users as well. With the last bit of time that we have, I do want to speak a little bit about Bytes. This is an event that we are bringing to you on behalf of Surface and on behalf of Bytes UK, who has an incredible amount of different offerings for you to make this even more easy to attain for your organization. If some of the concepts I've shared today have perked your curiosity, but you don't even know where to begin to change your deployment method or to enroll in Intune or how to get these devices going, that is why you have a technology partner, and that's why you work with Bytes. And so I want to share just a bit of the information they provided me of how they can better assist you. And one of those ways is how in which the purchase occurs. Device as a service. Not an entirely new concept, but think about it this way. Instead of a one-time purchase, a one-time capital asset purchase, when you use device as a service, it's an operating expense. It's scalable and predictable per user. So as you interact with Bytes, they can manage this device completely. Then one convenient monthly cost, you can have the device itself, the accessories, the management, the licensing, the monitors, the headsets, all of the other stuff, everything that that new employee needs to be successful in your organization, and you'll have a single monthly cost that you'll always know and understand that is predictable that Bytes provides for you. And that cost adapts based on the bundle and the package and the assessment of the devices that they need. You can adjust that at any point. And there's some really incredible things that by moving to a device as a service model, you're able to do. If we think about it, people come and go out of our organizations. They, accept better job offers, or maybe they're just not a right fit. And these things switch. So buying an entire device each time may not make the most sense for your business. And a device as a service model where I can simply reach out to Bytes and say, hey, we just hired Susan. She's going to need the whole package. Great, it's all being sent to Susan's house where it's going to set itself up. And it doesn't have to be interacted with IT, and that can even be kitted, asset tagged, and ready to go. I want to dive into this just a little bit further. The device as a service model is kind of that first half. When you're doing a device refresh, creating those profiles, provisioning them in those fancy applications, Intune, Azure Active Directory, and everything I was just mentioning, they're there for you. Once that device is deployed, the relationship doesn't end. We talk about upgrading and patching the operating systems and the applications that are deployed to that user on a user-by-user, role-by-role basis, and they can help craft that for you in partnership with you. Then someone needs support, helping with remediation of the user profile and device boot and the apps that are inside of it, issues that come along, as well as security incident alerting. Now, we at Microsoft do have solutions inside of Intune that monitor your security, but having that extra assistance with someone who is very familiar with your organization can be quite helpful. And then at the end of that device's life, decommissioning it, reallocating it, remotely wiping those devices and performing these functions remotely and in the cloud. There's a couple of tables that I'll show you that show some of the differences between the plans. Bytes has Plan A, Plan B, and some others. And while I don't have time to dive too deep into each one of these different points, I'll call out just a couple of observations. Plan A is really a remarkable fit, and there's a difference, because take a look at Autopilot. There's two flavors of Autopilot. Simply enrolling Autopilot, and then a white glove experience with Autopilot. And so assigning the right profile to the right employee, that's part of Plan A. But then when you opt for Plan B, there is this white glove experience, which is the full Autopilot process before the device ships. Remember, I mentioned that it takes about 45 minutes to an hour, depending how many apps, that the user will have to wait. They're informed of the progress, but they still gotta wait for that device to finish deploying itself. Bytes can help you with that model, and that might be fine. But if you want it to be even faster for your users, a white glove deployment that Bytes offers means that they'll do most all of that work in advance so that when the user first signs in, they're ready in mere moments. And Bytes doesn't need access to that user's account in order to do this. It is all done in a very simple, much more simple on the Bytes IT side for them, process that is really quite incredible. Autopilot provides this. Plan B gives you that white glove experience. Things like reassigning the devices. You have some differences there where Plan B includes an Autopilot white glove, whereas Plan A still does include this re-enrollment and dispatch of the device. So you're covered either plan that you go with. Decommissioning is a part of both of these options. There are some separate plans as well that expand beyond just this deployment methodology. Second and third line services is this management of the operating system, the application packaging, all of that. That's Plan C. Plan D over here is including all of this and end user support desk and some additional of that, the standard UK work hours, but additional support, human-based support there for you. And then, of course, they do have bespoke understanding. So this is just a general statement to say everyone is unique, and Bytes is there to be flexible and to help you with custom services that match exactly what you need. So that life cycle I mentioned earlier, here's just another view of that, now aided with the support of your partner, of Bytes, throughout the process. They'll build the profiles for each of the different distinct roles in your organization. They'll assign the profiles to the users and then ship it to the people who need it. When those people log in with their profile, they're pretty much good to go because they have Autopilot. Then Bytes is there on the device support half of this cycle, where the devices are managed and supported by that team, and then when it comes time to send it to someone else, there it is, redeployed to that next user, and then the process starts all over again until it's reached the end of its technological relevance, and that device leaves the organization. There is a powerful combination of being able to have a partner like Bytes and a premium device assortment like Surface as a scalable, predictable, secure, premium, versatile, and cost-effective way that you can provide the latest technology to your users. That is our goal at Surface. I know that Bytes is lockstep in that goal with us to make sure that you have something powerful. I hope that this session was something that was thought-provoking for you. If you're looking at refreshing devices or simply just raising your own knowledge level and awareness, we want to hear from you. Reaching out to the Bytes team is that next step to take. If you want to learn more, get a hands-on demo, try a device for a little bit of time, see if you like it. There are processes in place by which we can do that. Please reach out to your Bytes representative if you'd like to learn more about any of these solutions that we've discussed. There is a link here to learn more about Surface, onesurface.uk. Unique to the United Kingdom, that is a powerful link there. Give that a look. And then if you could do me a personal favor, we always want to hear from you about what you thought of this online session that you're viewing today. And it would be, I'd greatly appreciate it if you could go to presenting.live/bytes-surface-survey. If you don't want to type that, my producer Matt has already put that in the chat for you. Please take a moment to click on that link, answer a few questions about our time together today. We appreciate it. I'm taking a look there at the chat, and alas, we don't have any questions from the room. So I'm so grateful to all of you. Thank you for viewing our session to learn more about Surface and learn more about Bytes. We're here to help you through this exciting new chapter of technology. Thank you.